Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, the top trending topics around the Houston Texans this week. We got some rumors, some stories. Also, one of my coworkers, they're trying to poach one of my guys. I'll get into that in just one moment. The latest Texans rumors on tap for you today. Could the Texans be trading away John Metchie? As you've been probably noticing the past 4 weeks, haven't seen Metchie out there. Will the Texans move him before the trade deadline? Also, Josh Allen, is he throwing some major shade at Stefon Diggs? He had some comments after that Monday Night Football matchup that we'll break down. And then at the very end of today's show, are the Texans going to make a move at offensive line? Will a starter get benched this week? I'll break all this down and more on today's program. But let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this program. And I need to ask you this question before we get into anything. What is the correct way to prepare a hot dog? We were debating about this in the office today. I want to know it all. Do you boil, grill? Do you microwave? Do you put it on the stove? How do you make your hot dog? And then what toppings? Are you ketchup yes, ketchup no, mustard yes, mustard no, chili cheese? I want to know because we're talking tailgate. We were talking in the office and everybody was saying, no mustard on a hot dog. You can't have ketchup on a hot dog. I want to know from you, what's the correct way to make a hot dog? I personally love a good Sonoran dog, some bacon-wrapped hot dog with a little bit of crema or some mayo and some pickled jalapenos. I'm down for some chili cheese or a classic ketchup and mustard. But regardless, it's got to be grilled. It's got to be grilled. I don't know, producer Cullen, if you're mic'd up, how do you like your hot dog?
I'm a mustard and grilled onions kind of guy.
No ketchup?
No ketchup.
No ketchup.
I'll have a little ketchup sometimes if it's there, but yeah, grilled onions and mustard definitely the key.
Grilled onions, that's a pro move. That's a pro move. Go down in the comments. I want to know from you, how do you make your dog? As we talk about a dog to start off today's show, John Metchie, could the Texans end up moving the former second-round pick out of Alabama? I'm actually going to give this 2 Toro heads. I've been on a roller coaster ride this whole offseason with one John Metchie, and I just honestly don't know where he sits on this team. What's the deal with John Metchie? He's been a healthy scratch the last 2 weeks for this Texans team. I don't know what his role is on this roster anymore. I mean, guys like Xavier Hutchinson are getting the call up before he does. I mean, hey, Steven Sims, Robert Woods, they're getting the call up above John Metchie. I don't know what the Texans' plan is with him. I don't know what it is moving forward. I haven't seen him on any injury report really throughout this Texans season so far. And if you're asking me personally, I don't want to trade Metchie. I think he still has a lot of potential. I love what I saw out of him in the preseason, also at the end of last year. But if we're getting down to it, if the Texans aren't going to play Metchie, then, do you consider trading him before the trade deadline? Because maybe you want a player from another team, or maybe you're looking to get some draft capital before this offseason, but it doesn't make any sense to just not play him and just sit him on the bench throughout the entire season. Now, one of my coworkers, the host of Steelers Talk, he's been chomping at the bit to trade for a wide receiver, and he's been looking at John Metchie in particular. This is the trade that he gave me, and I want to hear from you folks before I give my thoughts on this trade. If this was the trade, what would you do? John Metchie for a 5th-round pick. Let me know. Would you make this trade? Give me a yes, give me a no. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So go down in the comment section and let me know while this YouTube ad plays, would you make this trade? I would not. I would not make this trade just because you never know how this season's going to go and whenever you'll need to get another wide receiver, because we saw last year with some injuries piling up. Even this week, Tank Dell is currently injured right now. So I wouldn't make this deal. If you're blown away by an offer, if you get a 2nd or 3rd round pick, maybe you could entice me, but for a 5th round pick, nah. I'm okay on that. I'd rather keep Metchie, keep him on the bench, and bring him up when needed if that's the case, if we're only getting a 5th round pick for Metchie. But it still stands. Maybe another team like the Rams, maybe another team, a wide receiver needy team, is looking at Metchie and saying, hey, a former 2nd round pick, he has a lot of potential. I'd be willing to throw a 3rd round pick towards the Houston Texans' way for that type of talent. If that's the case, I'd consider it. But right now, I'm not in the business of trading John Metchie III. I don't think it's worth it for the Texans at this point to make that move, because like I said, you're a contending team. You're trying to contend for something this season. So why go ahead and trade him if you don't need to? If you're not getting a good return for Metchie, that's why for right now, I'm on the team not to trade John Metchie. Next up, Josh Allen. Was he throwing some major shade at Stefon Diggs? This is 4 Toro heads. H-Town hold it down 100%. He was throwing shade at Stefon Diggs. And if you don't believe me, let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth, Josh Allen. This is what he has to say after that Jags win on Monday night. When guys get to buy into this and really understand, like, I may not get the ball 4 or 5 times thrown to me a game, but the 1 or 2 times I do, I'm going to have opportunities to be in the end zone. You know, it's fun and wonderful. It's a fun and wonderful thing when you have a bunch of guys that don't care about the stats. They don't care about the touchdowns. Give it up. Give it up, Josh. I mean, I get it. You and Diggs didn't have a great relationship towards the end of his time in Buffalo. But why are you keeping on rehashing this over and over again? You're like a jealous ex who's like, yeah, she's dating some fat dude now. You should see it on her Instagram. Why do you keep on having to talk about Diggs? Why do you have to keep his name in your mouth? Obviously, you're, kind of subtweeting Diggs here, talking about how he wanted the football more last season. But you talk about that. You talk about this, about, oh, I love it having guys who don't demand the football from me. Let's not forget, Josh Allen, how you were pre to post Stefon Diggs. The season before the Bills acquired Stefon Diggs, you had a 58.5 or 58.8 completion percentage. Just over 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a QB rating of 49.4. The season you got Stefon Diggs, that jumped up to a 69.2 completion percentage, over 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and a 76.6 QB rating. Josh, you had a ton of success with Diggs as your wide receiver 1. Stop messing around. Stop being petty and focus on yourself. Y'all made it to AFC Championship games. Y'all made it far in the playoffs. You obviously had great seasons with Stefon Diggs as your number 1 option. Why do you continuously throw him under the bus? It's over. It's done. He's not on your team. He can't hurt you anymore. So give it up. Why do you keep it on having Diggs' name in your mouth? I mean, you really do sound like a jealous ex at this point. He's off with a different team, doing different stuff. He doesn't even focus on you or anything about the Buffalo Bills. He's not worried about you. So why are you worried about him after a huge win up against the Jacksonville Jaguars? It doesn't make any sense to me. You just seem like you're super jealous, and honestly, it seems like you really want him back. So, Josh, I'm sorry, but I think you sound a little bit petty here if you ask me. Lastly, the last rumor on today's show are the Texans making changes at the offensive line position. I'll get into this in just a moment, but a quick word from our sponsors over at Fanatics. They have these H-Town, they have shirts, they have hoodies, they have jackets, they have everything you need with the brand new H-Town logo. I think it looks super fresh, and just in time, reminder, the Texans, they're breaking out these unis when they play the Buffalo Bills. So if you want it in time for that, go ahead and go over to our link, chatsports.com/H-Town. That'll be in the comment section and description of today's video. They have a ton of apparel for you with a bunch of the Texans secondary logo as well. So go check it out all today. Once again, in the comment section and description of today's video, it's chatsports.com/H-Town. Could the Texans be making a change at the offensive line position? I'm going 3 Toro heads, and I think it's pretty likely that that ends up being the case moving forward. As we look at this Texans offensive line, the starting unit has been Laramie Tunsil, Kenyon Green, Juice Scruggs, Shaq Mason, and Titus Howard. Besides that, week 2, Juice Scruggs was out, and Jarrett Patterson started for him. But if this O-line doesn't get it together, I could see some changes being made. Don't forget, the Texans, they drafted an offensive lineman in the second round of this year's draft in Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame. He looked pretty good in the preseason. And if this Texans offensive line doesn't shape up, if they don't look better in the next coming weeks, I could see Bobby Sloak. I could see DeMeco Ryans saying, hey, we need to make a move. We need to change things up along the offensive front 5. This is a bounce back game. This is a key, vital game for this offensive line. I've been told that, this is a real prove-it game for this offensive line. And if DeMeco Ryans, Bobby Sloak, if they don't see improvement along the front 5, if they don't really show out up against the Jaguars, changes could 100% be made. There's a reason why they drafted Blake Fisher in the second round. They need more depth along that offensive line, and they're obviously not 100% comfortable with that front five. So if they're not able to protect C.J. Stroud, if they're not able to get their shit together and not get penalties out the wazoo, then yeah, there's going to be changes made along the offensive line. DeMeco Ryans, he's, kind of had their back. He's shown them some praise this week, said, hey, we got to fix some things, but they're moving in the right direction. If it's bad another week, I will say there's going to be changes on that Texans offensive line. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on social media, you can do so at Jeremy Chuggs on Twitter, at Texans Today CS on IG, a new IG page I made here for Texans Today, and my TikTok. It's all the talk of Gen Z and all those, kids on the street. They're all saying, hey, have you checked out Jeremy Chuggs' TikTok? Well, if you haven't already, you can do so right here at Jeremy Chuggs on TikTok. And don't forget to always hit that subscribe button. We are the fastest growing Texans channel on YouTube for good reason. We bring you daily videos around the team and more watch parties, more live shows to come. So don't miss a single second of it. Go down and hit that subscribe button.